Welcome back to our second episode of What's Up Carmel. I am Matthew DiDonna, the Vice President of CMYC, here with
Claire, member of CMYC.
And I'm Trevor Tilev, another member.
We are pleased to have Director Michael Klitzing, who is currently the Director of Carmel Parks and Recreation. He was previously the Chief of Operating Officer of Carmel Clay Parks and Recreation for 14 years and now currently serves as the General Director. So this is super exciting, guys. Claire, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I'm super excited. So a little bit more about Director Klitzing. In 2018, he was named the top park professional in the nation, receiving the National Distinguished Professional Award. And under his leadership, Carmel Clay Parks and Rec has also won numerous national, state, and regional awards for its innovative facilities and programs, including its commitment to serving people with disabilities, which is super exciting. And we're going to talk more about that today because March is Disability Awareness Month.
Yeah, he's brought a lot to the City of Carmel through his parks and other opportunities that he's brought. And, just in this coming year, there's already scheduled and planned out or in development of planning so many new parks, such as the Flowing Well Park, the Casey Grove Park, Meadow Park, River Heritage Park, West Park, and Lawrence W. Inlow Park. And as well as two new constructions of parks coming to the city very soon. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Helps if I'm not on mute.
All right, Director Klitzing, I just want to start off today by thank you for joining us. I'm Trevor Tilev, and these are my colleagues.
Yeah, I'm Vice President Matthew DiDonna for Carmel Mayor's Youth Council.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Claire.
Claire,
Yeah.
pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come hop on for a few minutes and join the podcast.
Happy to do so.
Yeah. All right, so we're just going to start it off. So just so we and the viewers can get to know you a little bit better, can you just start off by telling us about your high school life, like where you attended and some of your hobbies?
Sure. So going back to high school, I actually grew up in central Illinois, just south of Champaign, Illinois. Went to a small rural school district called Unity High School, and I was involved in the band. Actually spent time working on the yearbook committee, was a basketball statistician, pep band, what have you. So, yeah.
That's all fun. Yeah, we just doing some basic research about yourself. We did discover that at the University of Illinois, you were on the marching band. Is that correct?
That is correct. I was in the marching Illini. Fortunately, the football team was decent most of the years I was there. So first year we went to the Citrus Bowl, and unfortunately my last year we went to no bowl, but all the other years went to different places, which was a lot of fun, and got to check out a bunch of different places. So
yeah. So as we discovered in our previous episode with the mayor, we discovered that he plays the French horn and piano. And so we're just curious, are we going to get a concert between you and the mayor?
He's probably much more accomplished than I am. So I played trumpet and flugelhorn, and it's been many years since I've picked up mine. So it wouldn't be a good sound.
Okay. One other thing we were wondering is what exactly got you into parks? Like, is there something in specific that got you interested? And also what made you want to join the Parks and Rec Department in Carmel?
Sure. Excellent question. Actually, I kind of got to Parks and Recreation through a roundabout way. I actually went to the University of Illinois, and I don't want to talk about basketball right now because I'm still mourning there. Basically, I actually got into U of I as an architecture student. I always thought I wanted to be an architect. But after attending some of the architecture classes and stuff, I quickly learned I didn't want to be an architect. And I kind of floundered for a number of time, ended up getting into banking. And then ultimately, after working in banking for a number of years, including as a loan officer for a brief period, even in Milwaukee, decided that's not what I wanted to do long term. And started thinking about what that might be, and ultimately kind of thought about Parks and Recreation, because one of the things I found that I did a lot when I was up in Milwaukee, especially, and not particularly enjoying what I was doing, was spending a lot of time just walking the parks, walking the trails, going along Lake Michigan. And I really enjoy business. I enjoy management. I enjoy leading a team. But I also wanted to do something that kind of gave back to the community I serve. And approving car loans isn't quite the same thing as helping develop parks. So I kind of gravitated to the parks because of that. But also part of my origin story, and there's a kernel of truth to this as well, is when I was an undergraduate at Illinois, my mom was the academic advisor for the leisure studies program at Illinois, which would have been the program I would have gone through as an undergraduate if I wanted to be in parks and recreation. And I didn't want my mom as my academic advisor. So I ended up having that background and having parks and recreation sort of in my roots. That's how I kind of knew about parks and recreation, and ultimately decided to get a master's degree, and have enjoyed being in the field ever since. Getting to Carmel, Carmel is the community in Indiana that most invests in its parks and recreation. It's a community that celebrates and recognizes the importance of quality of life, and parks and recreation plays a role in it. I had the great fortune of working for a consulting company before I was originally hired by Carmel Clay Parks, and one of our clients happened to be Carmel Clay Parks and Recreation, and at the time they were working on the master plan for Central Park before it was built or anything. So I was able to be involved in that, and I knew what was getting ready to come online. And as much as I enjoyed being a consultant and helping other communities, I really missed helping, communities build and manage and implement. At the time, they were creating their first ever assistant director position, and I applied for it. Was fortunate to get that position, and now my current role. And I absolutely love being here, and I can't think of a better place to serve as director of Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, that's super cool. And I think, helping out with the parks is just such a unique way to give back to the community.
I just have a quick side question. You said you wanted to start off with architecture.
Right.
Did architecture in going into your park development, did you see any correlation when designing your parks?
Actually, there really is a strong correlation, and I kind of got the best of all worlds, because I don't have to necessarily, do the intricate design of the parks and the facilities that we have, but I get to work with the architects and landscape architects to help create our master plans and ultimately the documents that guide what the park system is today. So there is a strong correlation with that, and it has fulfilled my interest that attracted me to architecture in the first place, creating beautiful places and places that people want to be, but in a completely different role. So I guess I get to manage the architects, so that's even better,
Well, I have to say, you've done an excellent job being named the 2018 Top Park Professional in the Nation and the National Distinguished Professional Award for the National Recreation Park Association. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but that is brilliant. So we truly thank you for all that you've done.
Thank you.
In addition, we were wondering, what kind of ways have you think you've innovated some of the parks here in Carmel?
Well, one of the things that's kind of unique about Carmel is our approach to parks and recreation in general. In most communities, parks and rec are very heavily subsidized by tax dollars. It's the tax dollars that build them, and that's true here in Carmel as well. But it's also tax dollars that do all the operations, fund the staff, fund the power bills, what have you. And here in Carmel, we've taken more of a business approach. And for example, other than last year with COVID, since 2010, our community center, the Monon Community Center, has been completely self-sufficient. So user fees cover all the operating expenses. Our before and after school program, extended school enrichment in the schools, again, are all about the fees covering the expenses, so that we don't have to, increase taxes to provide these services. And the people that are using them get to pay for it. So that's certainly not, there are other communities that do that, but not to the degree that we do. And I think that we've helped lead the field in understanding that in certain communities that's certainly feasible, and it works well in Carmel. Another thing that more recently that we spent a lot of time on is using, data to help us drive the decisions we make. We've got people counters, for example, in the water park, so we can better understand when people are coming, what are the busy times, What are the times where, if we get above a certain threshold of attendance, that we start seeing issues, more people that need to be rescued by a lifeguard, more disturbances between guests, so that we can manage and ensure that we have the right amount of people and the right amount of staff at the right time. So we're using a lot more data and trying to mine that data to make sure that we're not just guessing what are the best things to do, but we actually are making those decisions based on real information. And that's something that Parks and Recreation historically hasn't done. So I think that's another way that we've been innovating. And then the third thing that I'm really proud about is really our commitment to inclusion and trying to involve as many people of all different types, people with disabilities, people from different cultures into our parks. And there's always more that we can do, and there's more that we can learn. But ensuring that we're a place that people want to work and play is really important to all of us at Carmel Clay Parks and Recreation, myself included. So, that openness to listening to the community to make sure we're providing what people want.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, being Indiana's Disability Awareness Month, could you kind of expand on your adaptive engagement programs and kind of that inclusion aspect of the parks?
Absolutely. So we're very fortunate. We actually have 2 full-time people that we call full-time inclusion supervisors. So their job is to ensure that people with disabilities are able to participate in our program. So, as long as you meet the minimum qualifications for any of our programs, which usually is age, and some very basic skills, we'll make sure that we make modifications so that anyone, regardless of their abilities, can participate in the program. So we do that for all of our programs. Same thing for the parks. We also have a lot of programs that are focused specifically for people with disabilities. People without disabilities are invited to participate as well, but we cater them to people with disabilities. So we have a pretty robust program offering for that, including our adaptive flow riders. So we'll help people learn how to use the surfing ride that's in the water park. We have an inclusive theater that, the participants actually help us write, produce, and do everything for our barrier-free theater, which this year actually was sponsored by the Indiana Governor's Council on Disability. So we're very excited about that. But, it's really just making sure that we're providing those programs to help everyone enjoy recreation and, have that quality of life that we all want.
It's truly remarkable. It really is.
So, coming in this year, we've discovered you're in the planning stages or preparing to improvements to several parks in the city. We are super interested in the renovations at West Park, the constructions of the Sister Cities Cultural Garden. Sorry,
that's a mouthful.
And the new park on 146. To start it off, could you please expand on what's happening at the renovations at West Park?
Absolutely. So West Park is one of our 2 largest parks, along with Central Park, and a lot of the original portions of the park were developed about 18 years ago, a couple years before I was hired by the department. And like playgrounds and the splash pads within parks, usually they have about a 15 to 20 year lifespan. So we knew that those amenities were starting to get tired and approaching the end of their functional life. So we knew that we needed to prepare plans to basically replace those. Additionally, we had purchased next to the original 100 acres of Central Park, original 80 acres, 40 acres. So it made the park 120 acres total. And, we wanted to make sure that we integrated those 2 sections of the park together. So our current plans are basically putting a completely new playground and completely new splash pad out there, replacing the ones that are out there today. Actually, they're no longer out there. They were removed at the end of last year. But anyway, new ones will be coming in there. We're improving the entry and parking areas. Also, we're connecting the original part of the park to the newer portion of the park that has the Jill Perlman Pavilion. So making sure that the park feels more interconnected together. And the playground there and new splash pads, kind of cool. A lot of people know West Park for the snow hill, Jill's Hill. And if you think of Jill's Hill as the mountain, what we're doing is we're rotating the playground so it's a little bit closer to Jill's Hill and creating the foothills to the mountain. And the playground's going to be, and the splash pads integrated into these new hills we're creating. The key feature will be kind of on top of the hill, kind of replicating what we did before, but a different spin on the equipment. And then the splash pad will be like the water coming off the highlands, through a canyon, if you will, or ravine. So we're kind of replicating the creek that was out there, not quite as literally, because having the standing water based on today's safety standards, it doesn't necessarily meet all the protocols, but kind of that linear idea of creek stomping we're trying to create, but having geysers and waterfalls. So it's going to be a completely new experience. And I think even teens are going to have a little bit of fun reliving their younger years. I know I'm looking forward to it too. So,
you might see me sledding down right into the swing sets there.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm extremely excited to check all that out. I mean, I grew up going to West Park. It's right over 5 minutes from my house. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, I love West Park. I actually live on the east side, but I still go there all the time because I love it so much.
It's one of our busiest parks, so that doesn't surprise me. You asked about the new park on 146th Street. We'll stick on the west side. And that one, we just purchased it last year. It's at 146th and Shelbourne, the southwest corner there. And we actually renamed it at the beginning of this year, Bear Creek Park. So it's at the at the headwaters of a small creek that ultimately dumps into Little Eagle Creek that flows into Zionsville and what have you. So we renamed it after that body of water. And we are getting ready to name a consultant to help us do a master plan. And for every park, we develop a master plan that basically guides how we develop that park, what goes into it. And we create that plan based on listening to what the public wants. For this particular park, we're actually envisioning kind of opening it before we open it, inviting people to come check out the raw park before we do any development. Because it's a little bit different than, it's 27 acres, so it's not near as big as West Park, for example. And West Park is pretty flat, other than Jill's Hill. I mean, a little hills here and there, but pretty flat otherwise, and was predominantly agriculture fields. Well, Bear Creek has more of a role because of the creek, and actually has a small bluff. So it has a completely different feel than some of our other parks. And we want people to get out there to experience it before we ask their ideas as to what we can do with it. Because if you go out there and you think of it as, a smaller West Park, you think, well, maybe we could put, a sports field or whatever it may be. But the lay of the land just doesn't read like that. So instead of telling people, well, yeah, great idea, but we can't do it because of land, we'd love to have people come out there, experience the land, and then listen to their ideas as to what the park can be. So that'll be forthcoming. What exactly goes out there? I don't know. That's what the public's going to drive us. And we really want to make sure that we are listening to the broad diversity of the community as to what people want there. Because quite frankly, a lot of times for our public meetings that we have, I mean, they're usually 6, 7 o'clock. It limits who can attend those meetings. And a lot of times, the demographic that comes to those type of meetings tends to skew a little bit older, even older than me, and tends to be more, white folks and stuff. And I want to make sure that we have the diverse community, because we know that Carmel is becoming increasingly more diverse, which is a great thing. We want to make sure that, the younger families, the teens, the people with disabilities, the different religious entities that we have and communities that we have within Carmel all have a say into what this park becomes. So we're looking at ways to better, learn what people want, and expect me to come talking to this group too, because I want to make sure that young adults and teens have the ability to provide feedback as to what this park could be. And then what was the third one you wanted me to talk about?
The Sister Cities Cultural Gardens on Carmel Drive.
Absolutely. So this one's one that actually the city engineering department is doing a little bit more of the lead in it, but this is going to be a really special park right along the Monon Greenway, so a place where people can easily jump off. It's going to have trails. We're expanding the the pond that's there that's now part of the Japanese garden, but expanding it. And the idea is this is a place that we can celebrate all of our sister cities. So we have a sister city in Japan and a sister city in China currently, and potential for maybe other sister cities in other countries. So we're leaving extra space in there that we can celebrate current and potential future sister cities. It's going to have a pathway that goes around the water so that, it's a nice sort of more reflective, calm nature and landscaped area to be able to get off the Monon and explore these different cultures and learn about our sister cities. It also has kind of a maybe not as sexy component to it as well, is because it's serving as a stormwater management for the city. So, we want to make sure, and especially last week we saw water in places in Carmel that we haven't in a long time. So it's going to serve to manage some of those storm water events. So we're dressing it up as a park, and it's going to be beautiful, but it also has a utilitarian function as well. So we're very excited.
We were looking at the blueprints, and I was interested in how your design is changing, and like what unique features are you going to be adding to the Sister Cities Park.
So there's going to be like a pavilion that kind of reflects, some of the architectural styles from China, especially in the area of the sister city. It's going to have some entries, gates that bring you into it, a new entry point other than the red bridge, if you will, that brings you into City Hall. There's going to be a new, more prominent feature that has sort of some Asian inspirations in the architecture, but isn't too specific to any culture, just because, again, we're anticipating this welcoming all of our sister cities. So, wanted to be respectful of that and not give favoritism to, Japan or to China or to whoever it might be in the future. Some plants that respect the different cultures, but also are appropriate for our climates here in Indiana. And not invasive, so that they don't overtake our native species here. So
I'm super excited to see that. It's going to be awesome. So.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be a really good place for photos too.
It's going to be one of the new places for prom photos and wedding photos.
Oh, yeah,
most definitely.
Yeah. So I noticed that the construction has begun. The buildings have been torn down, and so along with West Park. So can you just give us, a couple of dates about when these parks might be opening, or the public viewing hours might be for the Bear Creek Park?
So for West Park, construction is really going to be ramping back up, beginning here in April. And we anticipate having all the construction completed before the end of the year. So weather is going to dictate exactly when it reopens, but I anticipate, probably it'll be cold. It'll probably be December, but it'll be perfect for the snowstorms that are coming hopefully next year and sledding. For the Sister Cities Cultural Gardens, that'll be opening more likely next year, so in 2022. Since we're so early into the construction, it's hard to give a specific date. So my guess would be summer to fall right now, but we'll learn more once we get the buildings down and start the other construction. But sometime in 2022, that new wonderful park or expanded park, I should say, will open. And then for Bear Creek, the public input, stay tuned on that, because in April, in our park board meeting in April, they'll be actually hiring the consultants. And then once we get them hired, we'll start establishing the dates. But I would anticipate we'll begin the public input process probably in the June, July timeframe of this year. And this summer is when we anticipate starting to invite people to come check out the unimproved Bear Creek to begin soliciting their ideas.
Yeah, well, thank you. That all sounds great, and keep us posted on what's happening, and we'll come check all of it out.
Absolutely, check us. I mean, we'll keep that on our social media as well as website for those that want to go to the internet. So.
Yeah, so we were also wondering, after all these years working at Carmel Parks and Rec, do you happen to have a favorite park here at Carmel?
Ooh, that one's a hard one. I had the great fortune of meeting a former director of the National Park Service a number of years ago at my national conference. And I asked her the same question, what's her favorite national park? Because I was trying to scout where I wanted to go next. And so as a true parks professional, I have to say, I really have no favorite. They all have their own unique elements that are special. But I'm really partial to two parks. One is Central Park, and I really love the trails on the east side and the East Woods. Kind of have a special story with the trails that are on the south side of the entry drive and kind of overlook Carmel Creek. I don't know if you've been out there, but there's a big round circular stone that overlooks the creek, and there's kind of a bluff bank that we restored so that the water wouldn't keep pushing the bank out of the way. So there's some stone put in there. But my previous yellow Labrador, when it was under construction, Indo and I would constantly go out to inspect the trails. So I have especially fond memories of walking my dog out in that park, and I still do, Doey, my current dog, but I love the trails out there. And then another park that's kind of a hidden gem, and we're gonna unhide it a little bit with some of our renovation projects, is River Heritage Park. And that park it has kind of a cool history because it was the first park that we developed, and it was before I was with the park system, that had a playground that took into consideration people with disabilities. So that in and of itself is kind of cool. We need to renovate it, but unfortunately that's one of our only park that we actually don't own. It's owned by Citizens Utility Group, which provides the water for the city of Indianapolis and surrounding communities. Not here in Carmel, but they have a water plant that draws water off the river. And so we were getting ready to renovate that playground, but they're getting ready to expand the plant, and we have to sort of adjust the improvements we're making in that park. But that park goes all the way to the river, and there's kind of a trail system, but it's not really heavily developed yet. And we're getting ready to do that. But that park has some really cool views of White River if you get back there. And actually in December, I was working with our landscape architects to scout where the new trail is going to go. And when we were out there, we heard some rustle in the trees, and out in front of us popped several deer, which is always fun to see when you're going out in the parks. The other thing is we were looking at where we want to place a kind of a river overlook where people can sort of just look at the river and listen to the water and the rapids and stuff. And we heard a rustling up above in the trees, and we knew that it was a big bird. I mean, a large bird. We thought it might be an owl, but the longer we just stood and listened and watched, first we saw two bald eagles, and then a third one, and then a fourth one. So it's so cool just to get out there and experience the wildlife and the river. I mean, you don't really feel like you're in the middle of a growing metropolis. So cool experience. We're going to be starting construction of a fully accessible trail out to the river, and but still keep it very much like a nature trail. And that's going to be my favorite trail. And I think a lot of people, once they discover it, are really going to like it too. So that one's one to check out at the end of this year once it opens.
Did I also read that park is installing a fishing pier?
Actually, Meadowlark Park will have a fishing pier. So
I knew one of them did.
Yeah, but actually, with what we're putting in, it'll make it easy to fish off the river. But if you're fishing in the river, I highly suggest catch and release. The ecology of the river has improved greatly, but I'm not sure I'd eat the fish yet. But if you go to Meadowlark Park, the Indiana Department of Natural Resources stocks the pond out there, and it's in their urban fishing program. So that means we get some really good fish out there. So if you're a fisher and actually want to catch to eat, that's the park to go to. Just make sure you have a license. So
Will do. Yeah, me and Matt started. We picked up fishing last year in quarantine, and maybe we'll carry it on to this year.
Carry it on.
Absolutely, good thing.
Speaking of which, perfect segue. I'm sorry, we have a few more questions. I could
No worries.
Forever, but we know we can't hold you too long. But I think I have to ask, how has COVID-19 impacted the parks here in Carmel?
So it's been really interesting. In some ways, as people were, sort of stuck in their homes and not allowed to do much of anything, one of the things that they could do, especially a year ago when the governor really kind of clamped down and had us stay at home, people were allowed to go to the parks. And what we found is the parks themselves, people discovered or rediscovered the parks in numbers that, like the both of you learning, picking up fishing and stuff, or walking the trails. Those were things that people could do safely and still can do. So we saw a huge increase, especially on our trails and open spaces within the parks during COVID times. And we're still seeing those, and that's great. Obviously, for a while, we had to shut down our playgrounds and our splash pads, but people found the other things in the parks to do, which was really cool. It also was a difficult time because, for 6 weeks, we had to close the Monon Community Center. So that was completely shut down. When Carmel Clay Schools at the end of last school year, closed down early, our before and after school program shut down, and all of our recreation programmings, by and large, shut down. And so it had a dramatic impact on the programming side of things, the direct services or facilities that we invite people to. So that was challenging. And even as summer came along and we were able to reopen, it wasn't at full capacity. And that impacted the revenue that we generate. I talked about how historically we cover our own operating expenses. Well, last year we couldn't because we were closed a good portion, or we weren't allowed to have as many people in. So instead of, the community center, covering expenses, instead of the before and after school program covering their expenses, collectively, we lost $2.6 million. Fortunately, we had cash reserves in the bank, so, we didn't have to ask for money from the city council or the township board, which also provides funding. But it was a difficult time. And it also ended up requiring us to reduce our workforce. So, we ultimately laid off 20 full-time employees just because, our program numbers don't support that many staff. So we've gotten a little bit leaner, but as things are starting to reopen and people are able to start participating in our programs, as we anticipate a more full water park season and more people are feeling comfortable coming to the Monon Community Center, we're starting to see us, a gradual uptick, and I'm anticipating this summer and fall a larger uptick where, we'll be able to hopefully bring back some of those positions. But so, it was great because we got to see a lot of people use the parks, the free parts of the parks, but, it certainly impacted our revenue generating facilities and programs as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, and like you said, you faced some financial struggleships, and so despite the parks being a fairly large investment, what is the most valuable aspect of creating parks, and what is the driving factor behind all your decisions?
Well, the big driving factor, of course, is listening very closely to what the community says they want from their parks, because I always try to look at parks not as my parks, but as the community parks. I just get to have the wonderful job of stewarding this incredible asset and these incredible programs. But for me, I always try to look at parks as we can be the best part of people's days. When people are going to the parks, by and large, they're doing it out of choice. It's something that they want to do, whether it's taking the kiddos to the playground or walking the trails or going to the community center to work out or participate in a program. By and large, it's things that people want to do to relieve the stresses, and being able to provide those types of things is really what motivates me the most. There's nothing more rewarding than to see a new park open. Like Cary Grove, we just reopened that with a new playground, and going by there and seeing the parking lot packed and tons of families playing out there. There's nothing more rewarding than knowing that all this planning has really brought that enjoyment and brought the community together. And that's really what, to me, parks are about.
That's awesome. And we just want to, again, we're wrapping up here, and we just want to thank you for joining us today and spending these past couple minutes with us. So in conclusion, is there anything else you would like to share to the viewers of Carmel?
Well, keep us informed as to what you want. Look for those planning meetings. We want to make sure that we're creating the parks for all members of the community, all ages of the community, all the diversity of the community. So, and especially, the youth in the community and young adults. So often we don't hear what you want from your park. So we want to make sure that we're hearing from you as well. So feel free to reach out to me, to my staff. We're here to serve and look forward to continuing to create the park system that benefits this great and incredible community.
It's been a pleasure, Mr. Klitzing. Once again, thank you so much for joining.
Well, thank you, Matt, Claire, and Trevor. I appreciate being on here. And if you ever want me to talk again, obviously I love parks and I love talking about it. So happy to join again.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
You take
Thanks.
care.
Have a great rest of your day.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll see y'all.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you
Great.
so much for watching. And that concludes our second episode of What's Up Carmel.
Yeah, Director Klitzing was an amazing guest. I loved what he had to say about the parks, and I'm excited to see these improvements coming to Carmel and see what they have to show me.
Once again, I'm Matt.
I'm Claire.
I'm Trevor.